Have you ever finally had some time to yourself and maybe your partner encouraged you to get out of the house? Maybe a grandparent offered to watch the kids, or maybe you found an hour in your schedule that was completely yours. But then instead of enjoying it, your mind just wouldn't stop. You were thinking about the laundry, the emails you still needed to answer, the grocery order you forgot to place, the dishes that were sitting in the sink when you left. Maybe you even found yourself checking the time thinking, I should probably head home. So not because anyone asked you to, but because somehow it felt difficult to simply enjoy the time to yourself. Can I tell you something I've noticed after more than 20 years of working with parents? I don't think most moms struggle because they don't have time. I think they struggle because they don't feel they've earned it. Hi, I'm Catherine O'Brien. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist in Sacramento, California. And over the years, I've sat with hundreds of parents who genuinely love their families and they want to be present for them. And very few have ever looked at me and said, I don't deserve a break. Instead, I hear things like, I couldn't relax. I feel guilty the whole time. I kept thinking about everything I should have been doing, and I just couldn't enjoy it. They're not saying rest has to be earned, but they're living like it does. And I think that's the real issue. Not guilt, not time management, not self-care. I think many of us are living by an invisible rule that says, once I've done enough, then I can rest. The problem is, as parents, when is enough? Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed that you have an invisible checklist running through your mind almost all day? Maybe it sounds like this. Once I finish the laundry, once I answer those emails, once I clean the kitchen, once everything else is taken care of, once work settles down, then I'll rest. The problem is parenting doesn't work that way. You finish one thing and 3 more things take its place. Let me show you what I mean. See the problem? Every time we finish the list, life hands us another one. So if our rule is I'll rest when everything is done, we've created a rule that's impossible to satisfy. That's the permission trap. You pack lunches, someone needs a permission slip signed, dinner needs to be planned, your child remembers they need cupcakes for tomorrow, the dog needs food, someone texts about carpool. There's always another task waiting for you. And that's why I just don't think that it's really a time management problem. It's a belief problem. Because if you believe rest only comes after everything is finished, rest becomes almost impossible. And the finish line just keeps moving. And if you're anything like many of the parents I work with, eventually you just stop asking yourself, what do I need? And you start asking, what still hasn't gotten done? That's a very different way to live. And I don't think anyone wakes up one morning and decides, from now on, I'm going to feel guilty every time I take a break. These beliefs usually develop over years, and sometimes they come from what we watched growing up. And maybe some of our parents were always taking care of everyone else. Maybe rest wasn't something you ever saw modeled. And sometimes it comes from culture. We're surrounded by messages that celebrate being busy, being productive, doing it all, holding everything together. And parents are praised for sacrificing, for pushing through, for never slowing down. And we don't spend nearly as much time talking about what sustainable parenting actually looks like. And then there's another layer I often see in my office. Sometimes the pressure comes from within. Maybe you're someone that likes things done a certain way. Maybe asking for help feels uncomfortable. Maybe your sense of worth has quietly become connected to being productive or dependable. And none of those things make you a bad person. In fact, they probably helped you become someone other people can count on. But sometimes the very strengths that make us wonderful parents also become the things that quietly exhaust us. That's why I always encourage parents to get curious, not judgmental, but curious. Instead of asking, why can't I just relax? Try asking, where did I learn that resting has to be earned? That question opens a completely different conversation. And here's why I think this invisible rule matters so much. When we believe rest has to be earned, we don't just postpone taking care of ourselves. We slowly begin living as though our needs matter less than everyone else's. And at first it doesn't seem like a big deal. You skip lunch because you're busy. You stay up late catching up on work after the kids go to bed. And you tell yourself you'll rest next weekend. You keep pushing through. And because you're capable, you probably can for a while. But eventually something begins to change. You become less patient. Small things start to feel much bigger than they used to. and you don't have as much energy for conversations. You find yourself going through the motions instead of enjoying the moments you worked so hard to create. And not because you don't love your family, but it's because you're depleted. One of the things I've learned over the years is that depletion rarely announces itself. It doesn't usually arrive with flashing lights. It sounds more like, I just don't have the patience I used to have. Why does everything feel so hard lately? I don't even recognize myself. And if you've ever had those thoughts, I want you to know something. You're not alone. It doesn't mean you're failing. It just may simply mean you're caring too much for too long. Research on parental burnout tells us that chronic stress without adequate opportunities to recover can affect our emotional availability, our patience, and our enjoyment of parenting. It doesn't mean we're bad parents. It means we're human. And that's why this conversation isn't really about getting a massage or taking a bubble bath. It's about asking a much more important question. What helps me continue showing up as the parent I want to be? And as you listen to this, I don't want you thinking, great, now I have to add self-care to my to-do list. That's not what I'm talking about. In fact, I think that's part of the problem. If we're not careful, we can turn rest into one more thing we feel like we have to accomplish. Giving yourself permission doesn't mean you have to take a weekend away or booking a spa day, though if you want to, please do. Most of us don't have the time for that on a regular basis. Sometimes it looks much smaller. It might be drinking your coffee while it's still hot instead of jumping up to unload the dishwasher. It might be letting your partner handle bedtime without you stepping in because they're doing it differently than you. And it might be taking a 20-minute walk while reminding yourself that everything doesn't have to be finished before you leave. And it might be reading a chapter of a book instead of folding more loads of laundry. Maybe it's asking for help before you're completely overwhelmed instead of waiting until you're running on empty. Or maybe it simply means sitting down for 15 minutes and resisting the urge to justify it. And notice that none of these examples are really about the activity. They're about the belief underneath it. Because if you're sitting at a coffee shop thinking, I should be home cleaning, or you're out for a walk and replaying your to-do list in your head, your body may have taken a break, but your mind is still carrying that invisible checklist. I think the goal is to slowly begin believing that you don't have to earn it. And if I'm honest, that's something I've had to learn too. There have been seasons where I'd finally have a little time to myself, and instead of enjoying it, I catch myself thinking about everything waiting for me when I got home. The laundry, the emails, the errands. Does that sound familiar? It took me a while to realize that the hardest part wasn't finding time. The hardest part was actually allowing myself to receive it. What changed for me wasn't my schedule. It was the belief underneath of it. My old belief was that I'll rest when everything is done. The new belief is that rest helps me keep showing up as a parent I want to be. So you notice that nothing changed. My schedule didn't suddenly become easier. Parenting didn't become less demanding, that's for sure. The shift happened when I stopped seeing rest as a reward for getting everything done and started seeing it as something that helps me keep showing up for the people I love. Now, I'm still a work in progress. There are days when my mind wants to go right back to that checklist. But now I notice it a lot sooner than I used to. And instead of asking, how can I get more done? I try to ask, what do I need right now to help me show up well for the people I love? And that being myself as well. So I found that question leads me somewhere much healthier. There's one thing I'd love for you to think about. Your children are always learning from you, not just from the conversations you have from them, not just from the rules you teach them. They're also watching how you treat yourself. They're learning whether it's okay to ask for help, whether it's okay to have boundaries, whether it's okay to rest, whether it's okay to have needs. So imagine your child as an adult someday. Would you want them to believe they have to earn even a break? Would you want them to feel guilty every time they took an afternoon to recharge? Now, most parents immediately say no, and yet that's often the very message we are unintentionally modeling for them, not because we say it, but because we live it. Your children aren't just learning from how you care for them, they're learning from how you care for yourself. And that doesn't mean you have to do it perfectly. It just simply means that every time you treat yourself with compassion, you're teaching them what compassion looks like. Before you go, I'd love to leave you with one question for this week. What do you believe you have to finish before you can earn a break? Now think about it, and then ask yourself, where did I learn that? And finally, is that a belief I want to keep carrying? Because sometimes awareness is just the first step towards real change. And if there's one thing I hope you take away from today's conversation is this: you don't have to earn being human. You don't have to earn needing rest. And you certainly don't have to earn care. The people you love benefit when you're emotionally present, not when you're emotionally exhausted. So maybe this week, instead of waiting until everything is finished, you choose one small moment to care for yourself, and not because you earned it, but because you're human, and humans need rest. If today's conversation resonated with you, I'd love for you to subscribe. Every week, we explore the psychology behind parenting, relationships, and family life so you can better understand what's happening beneath the surface and stay connected through life's transitions. And remember, stay curious with yourself and with the people you love, because curiosity creates connection, and connection grows through small moments. I'll see you next week.